So usually when I see motion capture looping, it's of an in-place walk cycle or an in-place idle, because both of those are relatively easy to make in motion capture. However, it can get a bit tricky if you want to have your characters moving around the scene, but also still looping seamlessly. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can use the new drift fix filter, which we just added in Rokoko Studio, with the looping features in Rokoko Studio Preview to create just that, a seamless loop with a character who is transitioning around their environment, but is not sliding all over the place. Let's jump into why this is so unique and why it's such a cool little trick you can do in Rokoko. Transition. Okay, so here I am in my Smart Suit Pro 2, and let's talk about how loops work. So if we think about how looping works in general, it's pretty simple, right? We blend the end back into the beginning. And when it comes to motion capture, what we're doing is we are blending the positions of all the different joints back into the starting positions of those joints. But not only that, we are blending the ending global position of the character back into the starting global position of the character. And it's really cool that you can make loops like this in Rokoko Studio, because it means that I can make things like in-place walk cycles without using a treadmill. I can just walk across my office, and then I can bring that animation into Rokoko Studio Preview, and you can see that our character is now doing a walk cycle in place. However, what if you want to make a looping scene where the character is moving around the environment, but they aren't doing a walk cycle? Well, if we record something like that, me just kind of moving around the environment, pausing here and there, and then we bring that into Rokoko Studio Preview to make a loop, you can see that because we are blending the ending position back into the starting position, we get this sliding of the character. And obviously that is something we want to avoid. However, since we released the drift fix filter in Rokoko Studio, it's now a lot easier to create loops like this, because you can guarantee that your character's starting and ending position will be in the exact same place, and therefore you won't have your character sliding around. So let me show you how I create one of these loops in real time. So the first thing I'm going to do is I've got two sticky notes that I'm going to grab right here, and these are going to mark my right and left foot positions when I begin and end the loop. So I'm going to put these down right here on the ground, and I'm going to start and end my loop like this. And the reason I'm doing it like this is because I'm going to be triggering the loop using my mouse right here. And that way, when I'm starting and when I'm ending my mocap animation, I will be literally in the exact same place. And then the drift fix filter will guarantee that my physical location translates to my digital location and everything lines up perfectly. So let's go ahead and hit record, and I'll show you how I do this. And there we go. So how did this animation turn out? Well, everything looks pretty good right off the bat. The first thing that I'll do, however, is just scan through my animation and make sure that if there's any cleanup that I have to do, I go ahead and do it. It looks like we have a little weird blip right here. So if I just grab these handles, I can actually advance the playhead until the point I need to. And if we finalize post-process and play it back, this looks really good. So now that our basic cleanup is done, let's check out the starting and ending positions of our animation. So if we go to the starting point of our animation with our feet planted on the ground, you can see that this left foot is kind of right within this corner between the red and blue arrows. If we go to the end of our animation, you can see that Rokoko has done a pretty good job of putting the feet where they should be. However, there is a little bit of global drift that has happened over the course of this animation. And for the purposes of this loop, we really want to make sure that our feet are in as close to exactly the same position at the end of the loop as they are at the beginning of the loop. So how can we go about and do this? Well, if we go to the details panel And then we take a look at the actor filters. You can see that we have this auto drift fix. And now if I click auto drift fix on and we go back to our animation, here's our right foot at the beginning, and at the end it is in almost precisely the exact same spot. And what this means is that when we bring this into Rokoko Studio, we can close this loop. The character won't be trying to slide back into that starting position because it will have already gotten back where our animation began. So at this point, we're ready now to create our loop, and we're not going to export this animation or the other animations that I've made for this project from Rokoko Studio. Instead, we're going to close down this scene. I always fully close out the scene in Rokoko Studio before I jump over to Rokoko Studio Preview. And the reason I do that is because Rokoko Studio Preview is going to pull in your scene from the cloud. And I want the scene to have closed properly in Rokoko Studio so that all the data comes over. If I open up my scene, you can see all of my animations are here. So let's go ahead and play through our main hero animation here that we're taking a look at. And you can see we're scanning around, and then we move over. Now the first thing I'm going to do is add some smoothing. I add smoothing to basically every clip that I create using Rokoko. Now I can just add a little track to this level right here, and then under strength I'm going to leave it at 7.5 because we are animating some warehouse robots, and that smoothness is going to give it a little bit more of that robotic, non-human feeling. So the smoothing is there, that's great, but now how do we actually add our loop? So let's go to the beginning of our loop, which is going to be right here. Hit plus in the looping track, then drag the loop all the way out to the end. And then I want another point where my character is kind of static and its feet have gotten back to that original starting point. So I like this right here. We'll try this, and we can always make tweaks if we need to. With my loop selected, I will go to Apply Loop Magic, and then I will click all my checkboxes, and I'm going to change my transition time to 1.5 seconds. Now, if we play through the loop from the end, how does this look? A perfectly seamless loop. Did you even see that? If we go back to the ending, you can see the playhead here. We're going to loop from here back to the beginning, and we should not see any noticeable jumps or anything in our character. There was the loop, did not notice it at all, and my character is still going to be transforming through space accurately here, and again without just sliding back to the starting position throughout the animation. So this is now ready for export. I can right click on my loop, go to export, I select FBX and default typically, and export this out for Unreal Engine. Now if we hop into Unreal Engine, I'm in a 5.7.1 scene, and I can go and import my motion capture into my folder. I can batch import all 3 of the clips that I created from Rokoko Studio Preview. And if we open those up, you can see that we have our Newton character doing its loop seamlessly. And then we can retarget that onto our robots, and all of a sudden we can populate our little warehouse scene with a bunch of looping animations that are transforming through space but are not sliding around and still look completely realistic. I've made a couple videos now about how useful making loops in Rokoko can be, namely because it means that you can populate a scene with NPC background characters that are just doing their thing. Once you put them there, they're going to be moving every time the editor is playing. And similarly, in programs like Blender, you can achieve the same effect. And by having all of these looping characters, you can start getting really creative with your shots, and it just helps that feeling of experimentation, which is so awesome in Unreal Engine and allows you to get so creative with your storytelling. So that is how you create seamlessly looping animations of characters that are transitioning around their environment using your Rokoko motion capture. So again, for motion capture, this is the sort of thing that can be a real pain in the butt to do. And the fact that you can just use the drift fix filter and then take it into Rokoko Studio Preview, create a perfect loop where your character is moving around and they're not sliding around the floor or anything. I really love this workflow. It's great for filling out scenes, as you hopefully saw. And if you have any questions about it, feel free to put them down in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer them. See you in the next video. Have fun making some loops out there.